The last message arrived in static and blood. Her blood smeared across the console as she decrypted the transmission. They're coming. And if they find him, we're all dead. Captain Alara Voss knew that voice, though it had been 5 years since it haunted her dreams. The man who sent it was supposed to be dead. The war was supposed to be over. But as the Starhawk hurtled toward the graveyard of the Nixian Belt, one truth burned brighter than the dying stars. Some ghosts refuse to stay buried, and some secrets are worth killing a galaxy to keep. Please wait. Before we start, tap that iCar button in the top right corner and smash that subscribe button right now. Hit the notification bell so you're first in line when new stories land. All right, let's dive into the story. Chapter 1. The message crackled through the comms, distorted but urgent, slicing through the steady hum of the Starhawk's engines like a knife. Static hissed, and then a voice, raw with desperation, filled the bridge. They're coming, and if they find him, we're all dead. The transmission cut out, leaving silence thick enough to choke on. Captain Alara Voss didn't flinch. Her gloved hands tightened around the edge of the holographic display, her knuckles pale under the dim glow of the ship's emergency lighting. The sleek, form-fitting black suit she wore clung to her like a second skin, the silver insignia of the Interstellar Defense Force catching the light as she turned. Every movement was precisely controlled, like a predator sizing up its prey. "Play it again," she ordered, her voice low but razor-sharp. Lieutenant Marcus Cole, her second-in-command, tapped the command into the console. The message replayed, the voice fraying at the edges like torn fabric. Marcus ran a hand through his close-cropped dark hair, his usual smirk absent. "Encryption's beyond standard protocols, Captain. Whoever sent this didn't want it traced." Alara's ice-blue eyes flicked to the star map projected above them. A single coordinate pulsed red in the Nixian Belt. Uncharted, unstable, a graveyard for ships that dare to enter. "Here gut twisted. No one's saying goes there. Who the hell sends a distress call from a death trap?" grumbled Sergeant Rhea Torres from her station, her muscular arms crossed over her chest. The scars along her temple, a souvenir from their last firefight, gleamed under the lights. "Someone who doesn't want to be found," Alara murmured. Marcus leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "Or someone who knows we come looking." A beat of silence. Alara's jaw clenched. There was only one person reckless enough to hide in the belt, and desperate enough to reach out to her after 5 years of radio silence. "Plot a course," she said, her tone leaving no room for debate. "Full stealth mode. I want us in the belt before the Ascendancy even blinks." Rhea whistled. "Bold move, Cap. You sure about this?" Alara didn't hesitate. "If they're after him, we don't have a choice." Marcus exhaled sharply. "You really think it's him? After all this time?" The ghost of an old ache flared in her chest. She ignored it. Only one way to find out. The Starhawk banked sharply, its engines throttling to a whisper as it veered toward the belt. Behind her, the crew exchanged glances, nervous, curious, but trusting. They'd followed her into hell before. As the ship plunged into the swirling chaos of the asteroid field, Alara allowed herself one fleeting thought. "Jace Rook, you better be worth it." Then, the stars blurred, and the hunt began. Chapter 2. The morning sun cast a golden glow over the quiet town of Eldermere as Elias tightened the straps of his worn leather pack. The events of the previous night still weighed heavily on his mind. The cryptic message from the old seer, the strange symbol burned into his palm, and the urgency in her voice when she whispered, "They're coming." "You're brooding again," teased Lyra, nudging him with her elbow as she tossed an apple into the air and caught it effortlessly. Her emerald eyes sparkled with mischief, a stark contrast to Elias's somber expression. "I'm not brooding. I'm thinking," he muttered, rubbing the faint mark on his hand. "Same thing with you," she shot back, taking a loud bite of the apple. "Look, if you're worried about that old woman's ramblings, don't be. Half the things seers say are just riddles wrapped in more riddles." Elias sighed. This wasn't just a riddle, Lyra. She knew things about my past. About them. Lyra's playful demeanor faltered for a moment. All right, fine. But standing here won't solve anything. We should at least check out that cave she mentioned. Who knows? Maybe we'll find a shiny rock or two. Elias couldn't help but smirk. You and your shiny rocks. What? A girl's gotta have hobbies, she laughed, tossing the apple core over her shoulder. The path to the Whispering Caves was overgrown, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and pine. As they pushed through the tangled foliage, a low hum filled the air, growing louder with each step. You hear that? Elias whispered, his hand instinctively reaching for the hilt of his dagger. Lyra tilted her head, her playful grin fading. Sounds like voices, but not quite. The moment they stepped into the cavern's mouth, the hum resolved into whispers, hundreds of them, overlapping in a chorus of eerie, indistinct words. The walls shimmered with an unnatural light, casting twisted shadows across the jagged stone. Okay, now I'm creeped out, Lyra admitted, her voice uncharacteristically small. Elias moved forward, drawn to a pedestal at the center of the chamber. Resting atop, it was a small, ornate box, its surface etched with the same symbol as his palm. Don't touch that, Lyra hissed, but it was too late. The moment his fingers brushed the box, the whispers erupted into a deafening scream. The ground trembled, and the walls seemed to pulse with dark energy. Elias staggered back, clutching the box as the shadows around them twisted into grotesque shapes. We need to go now. Lyra didn't need to tell twice. They bolted for the exit, the cave itself seeming to writhe behind them. Bursting into the sunlight, they didn't stop running until the whispers faded into the distance. Panting, Lyra doubled over, hands on her knees. What in the seven hells was that? Elias stared at the box in his hand, his heart pounding. I think we just woke something up. Lyra grew on it. Why is it always we? Elias cracked a smile, despite himself. Because you my lucky charm. She rolled her eyes. Next time, remind me to stay home. But as they looked back at the now silent cave, both knew there was no turning back. Whatever they'd unleashed, it was only the beginning. Chapter 3. The forest outside the Whispering Caves was eerily still, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. Elias clutched the ornate box, its weight heavier than it should have been, while Lyra kept glancing over her shoulder, her fingers twitching near the hilt of her dagger. You know, for a guy who's supposed to be the careful one, you got a real talent for grabbing cursed objects, she muttered, kicking a loose stone out of her path. Elias shot her a look. You're the one who said we should check out the cave. Yeah, to look, not to poke around like a couple of treasure-hungry idiots. Before Elias could retort, a rustling in the underbrush silenced them both. The leaves parted, and a figure stepped onto the path, tall, cloaked, and radiating an aura of quiet danger. Lyra's hand flew to her dagger. Well, this day just keeps getting better. The stranger lowered his hood, revealing sharp, angular features and eyes that gleamed like polished steel. You have something that doesn't belong to you, he said, his voice smooth but edged with warning. Elias tightened his grip on the box. And who says it's yours? The man smirked. The fact that I'm not the one who's going to die for holding it. Lyra snorted. Oh great, another cryptic doomsayer. You people really need to work on your delivery. The stranger's gaze flicked to her, unamused. You think this is a joke? That box is a key, one that shouldn't be in the hands of children. Elias bristled. We're not children. You're certainly not wise, the man countered. Give it to me, and I'll make sure the ones hunting you never find you. Lyra leaned in, whispering, I don't trust this guy. At all. Elias didn't either, but the weight of the box felt like it was burning through his palm. Why should we believe you? The stranger sighed, as if explaining to a particularly slow pupil. Because the Order of the Eclipse doesn't make offers twice. Lyra's eyes widened. The Order? Oh, that's just perfect. Elias, we are so out of our depth. Before Elias could respond, a distant howl cut through the air, unnatural, guttural. The stranger's smirk vanished. "They're here," he said sharply. "Run, now." Elias didn't need convincing. He and Lyra sprinted down the path, the stranger keeping pace beside them. "So much for give me the box and live, huh?" "Lida Pontit." The man didn't look at her. Plans change. Another howl, closer this time. The trees blurred past as they ran, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and something fouler, rot and sulfur. Elias risked a glance back and immediately wished he hadn't. Shadows moved between the trees too fast, too wrong. "What are those things?" he gasped. "Death, if you slow down," the stranger replied grimly. Lyra let out a breathless laugh. "You know, for a guy who's supposed to be terrifying, you're really bad at pep talks." Ahead, the trees thinned, revealing a crumbling stone bridge over a rushing river. The stranger pointed. "Cross it. They won't follow." Elias hesitated. "And you?" The man's lips curled into a humorless smile. "I'll buy you time, but this isn't over." As they dashed across the bridge, the howls turned to snarls behind them. Elias didn't look back. Lyra, however, spared one last glance. Well, at least someone's having fun. The moment their feet hit the opposite bank, the bridge collapsed into the churning water below, cutting off the creatures and the stranger from view. Elias exhaled sharply, his hands shaking. "What did we just get into?" Lyra wiped the sweat from her brow, grinning despite it all. "Oh, you know, the usual. Ancient curses, murderous cults, shadow monsters." She nudged him. "Admit it, life was boring before me." Elias groaned, but the ghost of a smile tugged at his lips. "We're so screwed." "Yeah," Lyra agreed cheerfully, "but at least it'll be interesting." The box hummed in Elias's grip, as if agreeing. Somewhere, far away, something dark stirred, and it was waiting. Chapter 4. The Starhawk shuddered violently as the first plasma blast grazed its shields, sending sparks raining from the ceiling. Alara gripped the pilot's chair, her knuckles white. The view screen filled with the sleek, dagger-like silhouettes of Ascendancy warships, 3 of them, closing fast. "Marcus! Evasive maneuvers now," she barked. The ship banked hard to starboard, throwing Alara sideways. She caught herself on the console, her fingers flying over the tactical display. "Rhea, get our rear guns online. I want to cover fire." Rhea's voice crackled through the comm, half growl, half laugh. "You asked for miracles, Cap. Those bastards are fast." Jace slid into the co-pilot's seat beside Alara, his hands already dancing across the controls. "You're welcome, by the way." She didn't spare him a glance. "For what?" "Saving your life back there." Another blast rocked the ship. Alara gritted her teeth. "I didn't need saving." Jace smirked, his green eyes glinting in the flashing red alert lights. "Liar. You were 2 seconds from being space dust." She finally shot him a glare. "And you were 2 seconds from being left behind." The ship lurched again as Marcus executed a sharp corkscrew roll, narrowly avoiding a torpedo. "Would you two flirt later?" he snapped. "We're kind of busy not dying." Jace chuckled, his fingers never stopping. "Relax, flyboy. I've got this." He punched in a sequence, and the Starhawk's engines roared to full power. Alara's eyes widened. "What the hell are you?" "Trust me." He winked. The ship shot forward like a bullet, weaving through the asteroids with reckless precision. Behind them, one of the Ascendancy ships clipped a spinning rock and spun out of control, its hull crumpling in a silent explosion. Rhea hooped over the comms. "Damn, Rook, you've still got the crazy bastard touch." Jace grinned. "Missed me, Torres? Like a migraine." Alara ignored their banter, her focus locked on the remaining ships. "They're adjusting course. They'll have a firing solution in 10 seconds. Jace's grin faded. "Then we make it 9. He slammed the throttle forward. The Starhawk screamed through the belt, its hull groaning under the strain. Alarms blared as another blast skimmed their shields. Shields at 40%. Marcus yelled. Alara's mind raced. They couldn't outrun them. Not like this. She turned to Jace. You got any more miracles up your sleeve? He met her gaze, his expression deadly serious for the first time. One, but you're not gonna like it. She didn't hesitate. Do it. Jace nodded and punched a command into the NAV console. The ship's AI chimed in, calm and cold. Warning, Nixian rift proximity alert. Gravitational instability extreme. Marcus's head whipped around. Are you insane? Jace's fingers hovered over the final key. Alara, she didn't blink. Jump. The Starhawk plunged into the swirling maw of the rift, and the universe tore apart around them. Chapter 5. The ruins of Vedros Keep loomed ahead, its shattered towers clawing at the storm-laden sky like broken fingers. Rain lashed against Elias's face as he tightened his grip on the box, now pulsing faintly with an eerie, rhythmic glow. Lyra squinted through the downpour, her usual smirk absent. You sure this is the place? Because ominous Death Fortress isn't really selling me on the whole answers we seek theory. Elias wiped water from his eyes. The stranger said the Order's stronghold was here. If anyone knows what this box is, they'll probably kill us for touching it, Lyra finished. Fantastic. A crack of thunder split the air as they approached the crumbling gate. The moment Elias stepped onto the moss-slick stones, the box's glow intensified, humming like a plucked string. Lyra eyed it warily. I really don't like it when inanimate objects get chatty. Before Elias could reply, a voice cut through the storm, cold, precise. You're either very brave or very stupid. A figure emerged from the shadows, clad in the same dark robes as the stranger from the forest, but this one wore a silver pendant shaped like an eclipsed sun. Her gaze locked onto the box. Elias instinctively stepped back. We're here for answers. The woman's lips thinned. And you bring doom with you. How typical. Lyra crossed her arms. Look, lady, we've been chased, cursed, and nearly eaten. If you're gonna kill us, at least make it quick. I'm soaked. To their surprise, the woman let out a dry chuckle. Come inside. The High Sentinel will decide your fate. The interior of the keep was surprisingly intact. Torches flickered in sconces, casting long shadows across ancient tapestries. At the far end of the hall, an elderly man sat upon a stone chair, his milky eyes fixed ahead. You bear the mark, he said without preamble, his voice like wine through dry leaves. Elias stiffened. You know about this? He opened his palm, revealing the symbol seared into his skin. The High Sentinel leaned forward. And the box. You've awakened it. Lida grew on it. Of course we did. Why wouldn't we? The old man ignored her. Long ago, the Order sealed away a power too great for mortals. That box is the lock. And you, boy, are the key. Elias's blood ran cold. What does that mean? It means, the woman from the gate said sharply, you've started a countdown. The eclipse is coming. And when it does, that box will either save the world or end it. Silence hung heavy in the air. Then Lyra clapped her hands. Well, that's so much worse than I expected. Love that for us. Elias shot her a look. Not helping. Wasn't trying to. The High Sentinel rose, his staff tapping against the stone. You must choose, Mark Bearer. Will you aid us in reforging the seal? Or will you flee and let the darkness consume all? Elias exhaled slowly. If I say no, the woman's hand drifted to the hilt of her sword. Then you won't leave this hall. Lida Sighit, dramatic and murderous. My favorite combo. Elias stared at the box, its glow reflecting in his eyes. Every instinct screamed to run, but the weight of the mark on his palm, the purpose, anchored him. What do I need to do? The High Sentinel smiled. It wasn't comforting. First, he said, you survive the night. As if on cue, a distant roar shook the walls. Lida grew on it. Oh, come on. The woman drew her sword. They found you. Ilyashmet Lirashgesh. She rolled her eyes. Fine, she muttered. But if we live, you owe me so much wine. The box's hum turned to a shriek as the keep's doors trembled under the force of something other. Something hungry. Elias tightened his grip. Deal. Chapter 6. The Starhawk trembled like a wounded animal as it emerged from the rift, its hull scorched and groaning. Alarms shrieked through the corridors, painting everything in pulsing red light. Alara gripped the command console, her breath coming fast. The view screen flickered to life, and there it was. The Ascendancy flagship, Oblivion's maw, a monstrous obsidian dagger against the stars, its weapons glowing with charged energy. Shields at 12%. Marcus shouted over the chaos, his fingers flying across the controls. They've got a full targeting lock. Rhea's voice crackled through the comms, strained but fierce. Guns are hot, but we're down to 3 turrets. This isn't a fight, it's a suicide run. Alara's jaw tightened. Then we make it count. Jace moved beside her, his shoulder brushing hers as he took in the screen. They'll expect us to run. So we don't. She shot him a look. You have a plan, or just a death wish? He smirked, that infuriating, reckless grin she knew too well. Why not both? Before she could respond, the maw fired. A beam of searing plasma ripped through space, straight for them. Brace! Alara roared. The impact sent them spinning. Metal screamed. The lights flickered, died, then sputtered back to life. Smoke curled from shattered panels. Marcus coughed, blood trickling from his temple. That one hurt. Jace was already back at the console. They're repositioning for the kill shot. We got maybe 30 seconds. Alara's mind raced. They couldn't outgun the maw, couldn't outrun it. But her eyes locked with Jace's. A silent understanding passed between them. You're thinking what I'm thinking, he said. She nodded, ramming speed. Marcus choked. What? Rhea's laugh was dark over the comms. Hell yeah, let's leave a mark. Jace's hands moved in a blur, rerouting power, diverting all energy to forward thrusters, shields to structural integrity. Alara opened a ship-wide channel. All hands, prepare for impact. The Starhawk surged forward, a dying beast charging its killer. The maw loomed larger, its weapons glowing brighter. 10 seconds. Jace's voice was quiet beside her. You know, if we survive this, I owe you a drink. Alara didn't look away from the screen. You owe me 5 years of drinks. 5 seconds. The maw fired. The Starhawk rolled at the last possible moment. The blast searing past them and drove its jagged, broken hull straight into the flagship's bridge. The universe exploded in fire and fury. Then nothing. Silence. Darkness. Until a gasp. A groan. The creak of twisted metal. Alara pried her eyes open. The bridge was in ruins, but the view screen, cracked and glitching, still showed space. And the maw, its side was torn open, venting atmosphere like a gutted beast. Jace coughed beside her, blood on his lips. Told you it would work. She grabbed his hand. Don't you dare die now. Somewhere in the wreckage, Marcus groaned. If we live, I'm never letting you two plan anything again. Rhea's weak chuckle echoed through the smoke. Worth it. Outside, the maw began to break apart, and deep in its crippled core, something began to pulse. A light, a signal, a key, waking up. Chapter 7. The final ascent to the Spire of Dawn was a blade's edge between ruin and salvation. The sky burned crimson as the eclipse reached its zenith, the air thick with the scent of charred earth, and something older, something hungry. Elias's hands shook as he clutched the now shattered box, its fractured pieces humming with unstable power. Lyra wiped blood from her lip, her dagger gleaming in the hellish light. Remind me again why we didn't just run when we had the chance. Elias shot her a weary grin. Because you'd have missed the excitement. Oh right, she deadpanned. How silly of me to forget the joys of being eaten alive by shadow monsters. A guttural screech tore through the air as another wave of the eclipse's creatures surged up the spire's steps, twisted, half-formed things with too many teeth and eyes that burned like dying stars. The High Sentinel's remaining warriors braced, but their numbers had dwindled to a desperate few. The robed woman from the keep, Althea, parried a clawed strike, her sword flaring with silver light. Mark bearer, the ritual now. Elias turned to the ancient altar at the spire's peak, its surface etched with the same symbol as his palm. The pieces of the box trembled in his grip. Lyra grabbed his arm. You sure about this? Last time you touched weird magic, we almost died. He met her gaze. Got a better idea? She held on a second longer, then released him with a sharp exhale. Just don't explode. I'd never hear the end of it. Elias stepped forward, pressing the shards onto the altar. The moment his marked hand touched the stone, agony ripped through him, white hot, like his veins were filled with molten iron. The world blurred. Somewhere distant, Lyra shouted his name. Then silence. The eclipse froze. The creatures halted mid-lunge. Even a wind stilled. A voice, vast and ancient, echoed in his skull. You would remake the seal, child? Even at the cost of your own life. Elias gritted his teeth. If that's what it takes. The voice laughed, and the sound shattered the stillness. Reality snapped back into motion, but the altar now blazed with golden light, the symbol on his palm burning brighter. Althea's eyes widened. It's working. Lyra, meanwhile, was busy kicking a frozen monster in the ribs. Huh, not so tough now, are you, whoa? The light erupted outward in a shockwave, dissolving the creatures into wisps of smoke. The crimson sky cracked, revealing the first hints of dawn beneath. Elias collapsed to his knees, gasping. Lyra was at his side in an instant. Hey, don't you dare die on me. I still need that wine. He coughed, his vision swimming. You're really bad at pep talks. She barked a laugh, her grip tightening on his arm. And you're really bad at not almost dying. We make a great team. Althea approached, her sword sheathed, her expression unreadable. The seal is restored. The eclipse is delayed. Elias frowned. Delay? The High Sentinel's voice carried from behind her, weary but firm. The darkness does not sleep, boy. It waits. And now it knows your name. Lyra groaned. So what you're saying is, we just signed up for more of this nonsense? The old man's smile was thin but genuine. Congratulations. You've graduated from pawns to pests. Elias looked at Lyra. She looked back. Then, together, they burst into exhausted, slightly hysterical laughter. Althea rolled her eyes. Idiots. As the first true rays of dawn broke over the horizon, Elias leaned back, staring at the sky. So, what now? Lyra stretched, wincing at her bruises. Now, we get that wine, and maybe some extremely sharp swords. Elias grinned. Deal. Somewhere, in the depths of the world, something stirred. But for now, for this single, shining moment, there was light. And that was the end of the story. Comment below if you want the next chapter, and hit that like button. Please subscribe, turn on the bell, and as always, keep the last light burning.